Hey everybody, I'm Amanda with DevExpress and welcome to Launch Week 15.1. Kicking us off today's webinar, New Controls Optimized for Universal Apps, presented by DevExpress Technical Evangelist Paul Usher and DevExpress CTO Julian Bucknall. In this webinar, Paul and Julian will introduce our newest product line, Controls for Universal Apps. From our new grid to our charting library, we'll take you through a tour of everything we'll ship as part of this release. Thank you for joining us. I will now hand things over to Paul and Julian.
Thank you, Amanda, and good morning, everybody. Welcome to Launch Week. We've certainly got a lot planned for you this week, but we've broken away from tradition a little bit today, and I think that's a really exciting time in the life of a developer. But first of all, let's say good morning to Mr. Bucknall. How are you, Julian?
Hello, Paul, and hello, everybody. I'm feeling good. I'm ready for this. It's kind of a weird thing. We're doing our launch week version of all of our product line, and so you might assume that come 15.1 we'll actually be releasing some universal app controls, but I'd just like to point out right at the outset, we're not actually releasing our Windows app controls at the same time as version 15.1. It's going to be about a month later. We still have some fixes to do, and you may see a crash or two as we go through this demo. Don't worry, we know, but it's going to be an interesting webinar, I think. What do you reckon, Paul?
Well, I think that you've spoiled it already, Julian. You've given away the fact that we might see some unexpected things. But look, I think the fact that traditionally we've always said that we will release our products when the likes of Microsoft release the RTMs. But in this case, we're actually giving developers access over the next few weeks to the preview versions of these universal app controls to work with the preview versions of Windows and Visual Studio. And I think that's really encouraging. I know that prior to joining the company, I used to hate when vendors would say, sorry, we can't support that even though you're on the beta plan with Microsoft. So I love it.
Yep, exactly. So don't worry about things. We're going to have a beta out, and yes, it will support the latest whatever release candidate for Windows 10 is or Visual Studio 2015. It's just not quite ready today. So, but we have something which will run.
Absolutely. Now, one of the things that I want people to think about today, Julian, as we go through this, is the fact that everything we show you on Windows 10 today, you can get up to speed with all our controls by using the Windows 8 XAML versions that are available either on the trial or part of your subscription right now. So whilst we're talking about universal apps, it's a matter of you want to learn some more about the XAML, you want to experience some of the controls, the Windows 8 versions are available now. Now, one of the other interesting things here is the fact that they're called universal apps. Now, I want you to clear up exactly what that means in terms of our subscriptions that also use the word universal.
So we have at the moment a product which is the top-of-the-line suite of our control line called DevExpress Universal. And Microsoft, in their wisdom, they didn't ask us, unfortunately, decided to call this platform the Universal Windows platform or Universal Apps. And so there's going to be some confusion over what universal means in our own marketing, in our own website, and all that. So we're having discussions at the moment about whether to change the name of our top-of-the-line product, call it Ultimate, call it DevExpress Everything, don't know yet. But rest assured there won't be any, confusion about what you buy in the future, say when we do release our Windows Universal Platform controls, what it'll be called and what you actually get. So there is that slight dissonance, shall we say, about the word universal and what it actually means in different contexts. But rest assured, we'll sort it out by the time of the release.
Sounds good. So what exactly are universal apps? Well, from a Microsoft perspective, what they wanted to do was provide a unified core, or one core, that allowed developers to write code and pretty much run on any of the Windows 10 platforms. This would mean that you could write your application and target desktop, target mobile, target the Xbox, or any other devices that get released running the Windows 10 core runtimes. Now, with this in mind, it's going to change the way that you approach some of your development slightly. I mean, sure, Windows 8.1, Windows Mobile or Windows Phone allowed some of that multiple platform development to take place. And of course, we've had PCLs and shared projects and things like that around for quite a while. But the way that Microsoft are targeting Windows 10 is a little bit different. Again, I just want to point out the fact that when we start stepping through some of these things, or when we provide the libraries for you guys to work with, you are going to be required to run Windows 10 and Visual Studio 2015 as to what version is available at the time. So what controls are we actually including in this first release of our Universal App Controls? Well, pretty much everything that's available in the Windows 8 XAML library. But there's also some extras that aren't on here. And I'm just hoping that Julian can quickly think off the top of his head to what they might be.
Putting me on the spot.
Well, I want to see if the jet lag's gone.
Oh, yes, I warn everybody, I got back from the Netherlands last night, so I'm a little bit, my body is on Netherlands time or Northern Europe time.
I would have said you were vague, but you came from The Hague.
Oh, very good. Yes. I was in Den Haag for the Microsoft Tech Days conference. So what other things? To be honest, I can't remember. Have you got a list somewhere?
No. Let's think about the fact that we've got the ribbon control and the hub tile. So they didn't quite make it onto this. Yeah. We can see just from this list that we've got the important factors such as the grid control, the chart controls, the key data visualization elements, and we know from working with you guys on all the other platforms just how important things like the grid really are to providing your solid development experience. Let's jump over and actually take a look at a couple of things. I'm going to show you a really quick video which has a phone emulator on one side and a tablet or desktop on the other, and then we'll start looking at that in real with some running code.
Actually, before you start that, as you're getting it ready, I will just point out, Paul did say it earlier on, but the Universal App Controls will only work on Windows 10 and will only work with Visual Studio 2015. So before somebody asks the question in the Q&A section, no, we can't make it work with Windows 8 or Windows 7, and no, we can't make it work with Visual Studio 2013 or earlier. This is going to be Windows 10 only and Visual Studio 2015 only. And as you'll see when Paul starts the demo, we are running here, or Paul is running here on a Windows 10 install. I can't remember which particular release it was. I think it's probably the latest one. But rest assured, we're keeping up. Once we release the beta, we shall be keeping up with the various interim releases of Windows 10 until the release to manufacturing version, and ditto for Visual Studio 2015. And the latest news that we have is the latest news that you have. It's probably mid to late July, so still 6 to 8 weeks away before those releases. And so, on to you, Paul.
Sounds like we're making a few excuses today, Julian. The fact that I'm running the Windows 10 inside a preview, and for Visual Studio I had to go back to the CTP due to some bugs in the release candidate for some of our controls. Now I'm going to run this video here which is going to show the exact same application running on a mobile device as it does on a desktop. The screen does look as if it's cut off on the left, just so we can try and fit things in, but it's just to give you that overall idea. Now we're hoping that GoToWebinar plays nice today and we'll actually just render the video so it's usable. We can see the different elements. It's the same concept of the DevAV demo that we've been shipping for a little while, and it's available on our WinForms and WPF platforms as well. But you can see as we navigate around the screen, the same information is made available. Obviously the XAML is designed to render differently for the different views, but you've got that shared code base, you've got your data access layer, everything meaning that you're focused on one solution. You can update the XAML and have different views for different mobile devices or screen sizes, but I think it's really nice just to be able to see here with the elements and the different controls how it simply works with Windows Mobile or Windows Phone, and also your desktop approach. You'll notice that as we scroll through, we're going to see some things like the charts coming forward. We've got the grids, obviously the navigation panes. You can see things like spark lines or grids embedded inside the charts. Now, I'm not going to run this for the whole 2.5 minutes that it goes. It just does, I think, give you a really nice idea as to how universal controls or universal app controls will assist in that hybrid or multi-platform development. And of course, Microsoft have chosen to now call this the Universal Windows Platform, or UWP. And I think we'll be hearing a lot more about that as they get closer to releasing Windows 10 and the new version of Visual Studio. We can see on the left-hand side the date picker or calendar control, the map control, and it scales really nicely, obviously being a XAML approach. Okay, let's stop the video and switch over to the desktop layout in its real form. Now here we can see the same hybrid app. This is available on the other platforms, and when you get these controls, the source code and everything will be prepared or included for you as well. If you've played with the Windows 8 controls, you can already understand the look and feel and the experience that we provide inside these controls. So we can pop up the Windows 10 or Windows 8 styling editing, which is obviously a little bit different to the more traditional WinForms approach. Slider controls, and everything obviously masks nicely between the two environments. So what type of controls are we going to be shipping, and what can you do with them? Well, let's minimize this and switch over to the features demo. We'll start inside the charts, and we can see some of the rich visualization that you can build with dashboarding. Here we've got some population data, and as I scroll through, I can actually click on other countries. We can see that nice rich effect coming through on GoToWebinar there. Click on Australia, and we've got the drill down and everything involved. If we're dealing with large data sources, this chart is always a good one to show. Allow me to drag and drop the filters out, zoom in, and scroll across. And again, these translate really nicely between the desktop and mobile counterparts. If you're familiar with some of our other controls, you already have come to, I suppose, expect some of the features and functionality I'm showing you. But to move it into that next platform and be on the cusp ready for when Microsoft release their latest versions or the release versions, I think is really quite exciting. Now the ribbon control, slightly different take on the more traditional ribbon, and here we've also got the text editor in here, and I think Julian wanted me to show things like how easy it is to implement bold and resizing. And as you can imagine, if you're working on a touch interface at this point, how easy this is to work with. Moving away from the more traditional pages and groups, having that nice Windows 10 or the new version of Office style ribbon as we step through. We've been able to implement gauges, We can see updating in real time as I just move my finger or mouse around. That nice, rich feel to them. Now, grids have always been a passion of DevExpress. So when it came to wanting to work with tablets, desktops, and mobile solutions, we wanted to be able to bring all that experience that we have inside of grid control and present it in a way that was still extremely usable, especially when you start thinking touch UI. Now, it's been quite a few years since we introduced some of our initial touch elements into our controls, but of course, this being a new control that's specifically designed for that Windows XAML or Windows 10 usability. We've got the ability of quickly clearing, we've got drop downs, roles, everything nice and easy to use within the grid control itself. If I want to change dates, again, that nice scroll, easy to use with your finger approach. Being able to do custom drawing, incorporate images into combos, the same with things like status and checkboxes. So nice and straightforward. Obviously, if you've got the requirement, you've also got the ability of implementing things like custom rendering. We can see things like the sparkline control on the right, and even with fairly large data sets, how easy it is to scroll. And of course, we've got the standard functionality of the filtering, being able to update the filter, clear the filter, sorting simply by touch. Editors, I think people take these a lot of basic functionalities for granted, but there's still a lot of work goes in behind the scenes to bring such things as text boxes, combo boxes, check boxes, to make it so that it's scalable and easy to work cross-platform or cross-device. So we've got our standard set of editors, implementing read-only, disabled, non-editable, that still looks like a text field. Obviously, you can still copy and copy from those. Turning on things like the clear button, having the clear button automatically appear only on focused, and being able to implement your own custom buttons for things like clear. Taking the text editor a little bit further, we've got simple buttons, we've got buttons that can be toggled. Again, all the things, if you're coming from a desktop background, that you'd expect to have in a rich platform. Now, one of the things that we're quite proud of, especially over the last couple of years, has been our PDF viewer. And this has already been put into place that it can work on both the desktop and the mobile environment. Oh, there we have one of those little messages, Julian. Let's see if we can go back and choose the actual PDF instead of the report viewer. So, being able to translate and actually view PDFs on any device. Now, I don't want to let too much out of the bag for what's coming up in the rest of the week for 15.1, but there's certainly been some exciting enhancements in the PDF library. And for more information on that, I'm going to recommend you join our presentation on WinForms and WPF tomorrow. But certainly the entire control set is really quite rich. We've got things like the flyout panel, again, coming out from the Windows 8 point of view. It's been translated across. We can see I can just do my flyouts. Really, if you're dealing with, say, a tablet scenario, the flyout panel's got a lot of use for being able to bring in extra information without cluttering up that UI. And it could be set so that it automatically disappears, stays on screen until you tell it to disappear, or just bringing out a pointer to say to somebody, hey, look here, this is something you need to be wary of. Now, as far as controls or as far as the actual project itself, let's jump into the feature demo code base, and you can see that when we ship this particular set of libraries, you've got full access to everything that we're showing you, including the hybrid demonstration. I might just load Visual Studio with a hybrid in the background. But all the views, you can see that everything to do with the XAML is all available. I'm a little bit nervous about opening one of the XAML pages right now because Visual Studio was being a little bit temperamental in a couple of our rehearsals. Let's just see. Maybe if we switch to the XAML view and remove the actual code view. Julian, do you have anything you want to add at this point?
I think I just want to emphasize the fact that if you know our XAML 8 controls, Windows 8 XAML controls, you may feel a certain amount of familiarity, and that is quite true. Creating this suite has been one of our easier conversions, shall we say. This is nothing like the conversions we had to do or the rewrite we had to do to port our Windows Forms functionality to, say, WPF. Going from Windows 8 XAML to Windows 10 and Universal Apps has been so far pretty simple. After all, we're just basically talking about desktop-style controls. So the grid on the desktop versus somehow a grid on a smartphone, for example. So although the runtime has changed in Windows 10, it hasn't changed so drastically, the APIs haven't changed so drastically that we couldn't do a fairly simple port, but they have changed enough that it wasn't just a recompile. This is not a Windows 8 XAML recompiled for Windows 10 using the Windows 10.NET and the Visual Studio 2015. No, there have been source code changes, yes, but as you can see, there is a remarkable number of controls already present, and they all pretty much work. We still have some edge cases, as you saw. We managed to get through without too many nasty crashes. So, as Paul said earlier on, essentially, if you know our Windows 8 XAML controls, you'll be familiar with our Windows 10 and Universal Apps support when it comes out. So be heartened by that, and that's it, really. Yeah.
Excellent. And Amanda, how are we going with questions?
Well, I can speak for Amanda.
Hey, Paul, we've had a couple come in.
Go ahead. Caught her out. We've had some come in. I've been answering some. As I've been speaking, we've had a few more, so I haven't had a chance to look at them yet. Anoop asks, are any of the controls responsive, such as adjust their size automatically based on screen size? The answer is yes, to a certain extent. Now, over the past few weeks, I've been at several conferences, and people have been asking about Universal App Controls. And one of the questions they've been asking is, how on earth do you make something which looks good on a desktop environment, say Windows 10 on a desktop, or even Xbox, how do you make it look good on Windows Phone? And the answer is, at the moment, it doesn't. At the moment, what happens is it looks like a very small version of the desktop. We have done no real work yet, because as I've just said, the Windows 8 XAML stuff, we didn't support mobile devices like phones anyway. So at the moment, it doesn't look very good. We have a lot of work to do with regard to providing a new rendering for some of our controls so that they look good on a much smaller screen, where the screen real estate is very, very much restrained compared to, say, a normal desktop, such as we're looking at on Paul's GoToWebinar screen here. Now, having said that, what's going to happen in mid-July is Microsoft are going to release Windows 10 for desktops. That's it. They are not releasing Windows 10 for phones. I'm not quite sure of the release schedule for Xbox, but certainly Microsoft themselves are taking the view that let's get the desktop version out first, and then we'll deal with the phones version. And I don't know how many of our attendees and listeners here at the moment are actually using one of the Windows releases, the Windows 10 releases, the beta releases on their Lumia, for example, phone. I'm going to guess not many at all, because there have been some issues about which particular Lumia phones are supported and which ones are not, and how quickly can you get the downloads and so on and so forth. So the phone support, even from Microsoft for Windows 10, is going to come much later, say, I'm guessing autumn or early winter time, 2015. And so that gives us, DevExpress, a little more time to make, if you like, a responsive control, one which looks good, A, on the desktop, and one which looks good, B, on something with, your normal portrait phone screen.
I think at the same time as well, Julian, it opens up a whole swag of other questions when it comes to the likes of mobile development and targeting tablets and phones. And as we can see from the demonstration of the hybrid app here, or DevAV, it's in some cases down to just creating the user interface directly for that device. So all the controls that we're releasing for Windows 10 do scale really well. The map control is interactive and works well. But it comes down to the developer making sure that they're not just expecting to design for desktop and have it shrink.
Right, exactly. Yes, good point. So, next question we have you improved the performance of the map and chart control with large data sets? I don't know at this particular point in time. Sorry, James, I have no news on that, not without spending 5 minutes looking it all up. Let's go back a bit. On reports, will you provide a docx export, since both text RTF doesn't really provide with a format that is enough for most exports, like headers and footers, to be still headers and footers?
Is that a reporting question?
I think it's, I'm not quite sure what question it is. Yeah, I think it's a reporting question. Are we going to export to doc and docx? How about that? Where the footers and headers actually transfer properly.
That is a good question. I'm thinking that the reporting and dashboard webinar should definitely be able to answer that question, Mr. Bucknall.
Thank you, Paul. Paul is saying that because I have that webinar in 2 days' time, 3 days' time, or something like that. So I'll look it up, Kleis. We'll see. Anup's question is, what are the prerequisites for a universal app, like the .NET version? Right. Essentially, it's going to be, the prerequisites for a universal app is Windows 10, .NET 5, and Visual Studio 2015. Let's go on. Will Windows 8 XAML controls still exist in parallel to the universal app controls?
Yes.
Deep smart questions. The answer is yes, they will still exist. I will also then point out that Microsoft are offering a free upgrade from Windows 8 to Windows 10. So I don't know how quickly that's going to be taken up. I presume that if somebody's running Windows 8, they'll upgrade to Windows 10. I presume Microsoft are going to somehow make that part of Windows Update or something like that. So at some point, Windows 8 is just not going to be worth developing for anymore. Probably within the first year of Windows 10 being out. I mean, Microsoft, what were they saying, a build or something like that? They expect to have 3 billion or billion devices in the first 3 years supporting Windows 10. I can't remember the exact numbers now, but I think Windows 8 is going to be pretty much forgotten pretty quickly, I would say.
Long live Windows XP.
Long live Windows XP, yes. Abinesh asks, are there any enhancements done in the layout control? Can we add the controls in the form at runtime and then save the layout?
The layout control has had some amazing work done to it. Now, I could be talking out of school again here, Julian, but I certainly know that from the WinForms and WPF point of view, the answer to that question would be yes.
Okay. Anup asks, on to his previous question, on Windows 10 for desktop, they will be having the min, max, and close buttons, so not Windows Mobile. Not quite sure what you're asking there. Moving on. So, what have we got?
Yes, the samples will be available in BB.
Alessandra, so this version, it's only for new Windows 10 and VS 2015. The actual version of Dev will continue to be upgraded. Yes, we just answered that question. So, next question along. Near asks, any news regarding RTL support? Right to left. Oh, we've got lots of news with regard to right to left support. Like tomorrow, for example, where Paul will be talking about right to left. Won't you, Paul?
I'm going to bring this slide up now, since most people are asking questions that we can answer this week, Julian.
Oh, okay. Oh, look at this. So tomorrow it's what's new for WinForms and WPF. On Wednesday, what's new for ASP.NET and MVC. On the 4th of June, so Thursday, what's new for reporting and dashboards. I believe I'm doing that one with you, aren't I? I can't remember.
Yes.
On Friday, what's new for DevExtreme? And then next week, on June the 10th, we're going to be showing off the preview for CodeRush for Roslyn, which is definitely about Visual Studio 2015.
Absolutely.
Nadeem asks, why is there no TeamViewer and LogMeIn support? I don't know. Search me. We have no...
It must be a Windows 10 question, yeah. Outside the scope of what we can handle.
Prem Shah asked, does the dashboard designer viewer, is it available in Universal App? No. Not yet. Not this release. Eric asks, is your Universal Windows platform control still supporting Windows RT or Windows 8.1 Universal App? Nope. As I've said, or we've said all along through this webinar, this is for Windows 10 only and Visual Studio 2015 only. Yes, they are roughly the same code as our Windows 8, but that doesn't mean they will compile either way. Okay, a suggestion for barcodes. Please implement a save restore feature to from registry XML file for its settings like the save grid. Okay, we'll pass that on to the people, the team who do barcodes. That's Alessandra's questions we've answered. It's what features of this new version in 15.1 will not work on Visual Studio? So again, Fernando, what we're showing here is the Universal Apps controls. The Universal Apps are only going to be available on Windows 10 and developing in Visual Studio 2015. That's it. So they will not work in Visual Studio 2013, and they will not work on Windows 8.1. We're getting through some questions here.
You're answering them fast that I could read them, Julian.
Well, why don't you read some then, Paul, and see if I can answer them?
No. I'd ask questions that you would find, you'd shout at me later on.
Mark asked a
So,
very
so
simple question. Mark asked a very simple question, which I'll answer straight away. What does RTL mean? RTL is short for right to left, and it's about right to left language support, such as Arabic and Hebrew. Traditionally in WinForms, we've never supported it. In ASP.NET, we support it. WPF, we support it. And Universal Apps, I think we're supporting it, but I'm not absolutely sure since I've not actually tried to run it in a Hebrew version of Windows 10.
so Julian, extra reporting is going to be supported on Windows 10.
Eventually, something reporting will be working.
The report viewer now is supported.
Right.
Obviously, it was supported in Windows 8 XAML controls and has been brought across.
Right.
My favorite question so far says, can we use XAF in Windows 10?
Somebody asked that? Oh.
Somebody asked that.
Okay, let's have another little chat about what Windows 10 is. Windows 10 is just Windows. So any WinForms application will work in Windows 10, any WPF application will work in Windows 10. So yes, XAF will work in Windows 10. Now, if you're asking, will there be universal app support for XAF? That's a different question.
That's beyond the scope of this webinar too.
It is. It's certainly not in 15.1.
Excellent. I love the way you answer those.
You had to find that question.
Well, I was going to ask the FireMonkey question, but I decided not to.
Yeah. What have we got out? What have we got here?
That's pretty much all of them, I think.
Yeah. Pretty much.
Look at that.
So, Nadim asked the real question, when is the product being launched? So, we should have a beta out for Universal App Suite, whatever we decide to call it, within a couple of weeks. This week it's all about version 15.1 of our existing product line. So, Windows Forms, ASP.NET and MVC, WPF. We are going to be releasing that support within a few days. Let's put it like that. So that's why we have this week, as Paul has put up there, a whole bunch of webinars on what's appearing in 15.1. So give us time to get all that out, and give us time to nail down the remaining problematic bugs that we have for whatever the release version. The current beta releases of Windows 10 and Visual Studio 2015 are, and then we'll release a beta of our universal app controls, and then probably within 4 weeks, say, we'll actually release the universal app controls as a separate suite, and you'll be able to purchase and use it, and obviously purchasing is a great idea because there will be minor releases as Microsoft themselves release Windows 10 and Visual Studio 2015.
Excellent. So the dates are up there, registration information is up there, and we've got some exciting things to look forward to in the life of Universal Control or apps. Start again, Paul. Controls for Universal Apps.
So apps. Yep.
Of course, our contact information, should you wish to reach out and ask any other questions that haven't been covered, as we get closer to the release of the formal beta of that, we will be blogging about it as well. And I know that the team who've been on the call with us today, looking at the questions and writing furiously the feedback and different ideas that come in, which of course is what makes all this possible.
Indeed. Thank you all for attending, and thank you to my co-presenter, or main presenter I should say, Paul Usher. Did a grand job, only managed to find one dialog box which caused us palpitations. We did have
it wasn't
rather
a
more.
crash.
No, it wasn't a crash, and we did have some fun during the rehearsals for this. Let's put it like that. So please stay tuned to our community site to find out when the beta is going to be released. Obviously, if you have DevExpress Universal or DevExpress DExperience, you will be able to download the beta and play with it. I again stress the fact this is Windows 10 and Visual Studio 2015. I think Nadeem there is pulling my leg saying, so this will not work on Windows 7 and Windows 8. I think we've been fairly positive about the fact this is only for Windows 10. So yes, you're going to have to find some machine out there that you have that you can install Windows 10 on, or maybe create a virtual machine, such as what Paul is doing here. He's actually running on a virtual machine. Install Windows 10, Visual Studio 2015, and when we release the beta, hey, have at it.
All right, everybody, that is it for this one. Thank you so much to Paul and Julian. Thank you all for joining us. And, of course, thank you for choosing DevExpress. Bye-bye.